right, Tom Pincince, your interim athletic director, back with three more guests. We've gone from student athletes to professors, and now we're talking to three CCSU alums who all work in the world of media, who all worked at one point in time with us in the athletics department, whether it was through the school paper or actually working for us. But Brittany Burke, Derek Turner, and Ashley Afonso are all gracious enough to join us in between press conferences, and I don't know, Ashley gets in Twitter fights with people all the time, and yesterday she talked about her job being difficult and somebody went after her on Twitter, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But I'm going to give you guys a chance to just go through and introduce yourselves, and we'll start with Brittany.
Sure. Hi, I'm Brittany Burke. I graduated in 2012 with my bachelor's in journalism, and then 2015 with my master's in public relations, both from CCSU. And I currently work as an app product manager for the regional sports networks of NBC Sports.
All right, Derek.
I'm Derek Turner. Graduated Central in 2013 with a bachelor's in journalism. I currently work for Hearst, Connecticut Media, so New Haven Register, Connecticut Post, a bunch of Western Connecticut newspapers as a web producer, kind of just managing websites, doing social media, kind of all of the digital media stuff that's going on right now.
All right, Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Afonso. I graduated Central also with a bachelor's in journalism with an emphasis on broadcast. I don't know if they still do that, but I got to emphasize on broadcast in 2014, and I now work for Fox 61 as a reporter and fill-in anchor after what felt like a long stint in Springfield.
What, it's like a year? 2 years? 3
years?
years?
Four very long years.
I like when the TV voice comes in when she starts talking. Like we were talking, the four of us beforehand. It's just, regular old Ashley, and then you ask her to introduce herself, and this TV voice comes out. Derek, news yesterday from Hearst on no layoffs and those kind of things during this time. It's got to be good, for everybody to hear that. What's the feeling among those that work for Hearst?
The newspaper industry is definitely tough right now, and you can even look towards the Hartford Courant, where they have been losing a few people, it seems like every month for the last few months now. So it's definitely a positive feeling to hear from the higher ups at Hearst that they're investing in our journalism, investing in our websites, everything we're doing, and really focusing and putting an emphasis on all of the coverage that we're doing locally and nationally. So it's definitely a positive thing, and I think it's sort of lucky to have be part of that company, especially at a time like this when record number of people are losing their jobs. So it's definitely a positive for the newspaper industry right now.
How has your role changed and your job changed with everything that's going on? We kind of we had to fit this in a little half hour because I know Brittany works crazy hours. I think she works from like overnight and those kind of things, and crazy hours if you follow her on social media. And then, Ashley's working in the morning, and we tried to schedule it in, but we're kind of going around the governor's press conference for you. How, Derek, how have things changed in the last few weeks?
So, the first big change was it went from going into the office and working with people, and then all of a sudden everyone was home and everyone was talking online, and everyone did from one kind of video conference meeting a week to one or two a day at this point. And it feels like breaking news 8 hours a day. And Governor Lamont gives his press conference anytime between like 2:30 and 4:30. So we kind of schedule around that. And as soon as he announces, unfortunately, the number of deaths that have happened, kind of it's all hands on deck, and we kind of push out our information all over the place. And that's kind of the heart of the day at this point. And every other time is kind of waiting and seeing what happens, but it's kind of always on edge.
Ashley, how about your in the mornings and where you're going and who you're talking to? How much has changed?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was used to getting there at 5:30, and I'm seeing everyone at the station before I head out to whatever my story was, and now I'm going right to whatever my story is, meeting my photographer there. Used to getting multiple interviews with people just using a regular stick microphone. Now we have this 6-foot pole, which I feel utterly ridiculous whipping out on people, but if we're still doing a few interviews, not nearly as many, but when we do, we want to be safe. So we have our MOS, man on the street interviews. We basically stopped that. So the only people we're interviewing is really officials at this point.
And Britt, how about the world of sports? I mean, it's, we live it every day, and we've seen it, one way on our end, but what about for you as far as what you do and content and what's out there, and you're the biggest NHL fan I know. So I mean, the withdrawal from NHL must be hard.
The Stanley Cup playoffs were supposed to start last night, the night before, so it's been pretty tough, especially because working for NBC, we have NHL, and then I work with the regional network, so it's the start of the MLB season, NBA, NBC has the Olympics, so for a very long time we were just kind of wondering what was going to happen, and now it's just still covering that news, where now it's speculating when the sports are going to come back, or for the NHL is which teams are testing positive for COVID-19 and how they're handling that. And that's across all sports. So the news hasn't slowed down. It's just that our writers are covering other types of news, right? I mean, they're covering now how the leagues are handling it. I'm fortunate enough for the regional networks that I work in product. So our product is still live. We're streaming, we've had to pivot and stream classic games instead of live games to still provide fans what they want. So it's been a lot of thinking on our feet to kind of keep the sports fans involved and give them what they want while also having the most of our sports put on hold.
It's funny not funny, but to watch some of the old stuff that's on TV. Like I was just watching that Pedro Martinez struck out 19 Yankees in 1999. So they were showing that on the MLB stream. And yesterday on ESPN was the 86 Masters, which is, probably well before any of you were even born. But it's certainly an iconic moment in the sports world. Yeah. But I was taken by just how awful the production was of some of this stuff. Like the audio is terrible. The video is terrible. There's no graphics on the screen. There's no score bug. Like the guy who invented the score bug might be the greatest invention in the world. Let's go towards Central and your time at Central and what that did for you. And we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with Brittany. We worked together. God, it feels like it was yesterday. And I told the three of you, I can't wait to ask you questions because you spent your time at Central asking me questions. But your time as the recorder, sports editor, and what that place meant for you and your time at Central. What did it mean, and how did it prepare you for what you're doing now?
Sure. Now I'm a product manager, so I deal with a lot of tech stuff. But before that, I was a news desk editor for the NBC Sports, like the national news desk. I was at for the better part of 4 years. So that was really using exactly what I learned at Central as working with the reporters, how to write a good headline, what becomes newsworthy, what should we put. I mean, for the reporter, it would be top of the fold, but in our lead, like how do we change that? So really I never worked for a newspaper like I did for the reporter, but I have worked in, with the digital media landscape. And I think a lot of that still holds true in the lessons that I learned at Central, and having to deal with, athletes and SIDs and almost cultivating. I think the biggest thing was learning how to cultivate working relationships. And I think that's something that's really carried through, not only from Central, but through every part and position I've had at NBC.
Eric, how about your time working at the Recorder? I think you spent many a cold day sitting out at a softball game or soccer game or all that stuff covering. What did your time at Central mean to you, and how you got to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start at the Recorder immediately. I wish I did, but I'm glad I definitely got involved in it at some point. And like I had said earlier, maybe before we started recording, Brittany kind of said, "Hey, we need someone to cover softball. Why don't you do it?" And I was a little bit hesitant. I'm a huge baseball fan. I was like, "Yeah, like I'll give it a shot." And then I covered the softball team for about 2 years, and it was a lot of fun. It was sort of difficult to juggle my my job on the weekends and covering the games. But I think kind of the time management in that aspect kind of helped me do what I'm doing now. And everything, things are so crazy right now, and we have so many projects going on. It's sort of just a interesting way to kind of balance, what's going on now and what I did with the Recorder, and trying to set up interviews a day later with the coach and sort of thing. So it's been interesting.
Can you guys hear the thunder? The big thunder boom that just happened outside my window. I sit right in front of the window, and it's just the big lightning flash just came up and thunder. I was ready to jump out of my seat. And it's funny, every time one of us gets an email and we hear the ding, you can see everyone's eyes go to the corner. Like, oh my God, who's emailing me now? Who's that from? Who did that? Ashley, when did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Have that microphone in your hand and report and broadcast journalism.
I always wanted to do this since I was probably, 12. I didn't know which path. So I was on dance team at Central for a couple of years, and I really started to enjoy sports more than I didn't grow up playing sports. I grew up dancing. So, but being on the sidelines made me want to do sports. And that's, after a couple of years, that's when I got involved with you guys and started interviewing athletes and doing all of that fun stuff. Although I cannot watch that back. It is so bad.
I'm gonna splice it in here when we show it. We'll put it up there for you. You got into sports enough where you actually married a Central student athlete. So
that's right, married a baseball player. But when I got out, that was what I was trying to do, was get a job as a sports reporter, and I did some stuff for CPTV sports. They're not a thing anymore, but for a year, and then they are just getting rid of local news sports across the nation. And finally I got a job in Springfield, and they were like, you can do whatever sports stories are big and come our way, but we need you to do news. So I actually got a lot of opportunity there. I went to a Super Bowl. I did a few other things, sports related, but have now transitioned to completely news, which makes me a little sad.
Was the goal to get back to Connecticut eventually?
Always, yes.
Always?
As mentioned, my husband is here and they own a business. So, and my family's here, his family's here. And honestly, I don't know, people always in this business always talk about going to the network, and that's the dream. And my dream has always just been to work in Connecticut. So living the dream, I guess.
Yeah. Is that you're all living the dream? Is that what you are? You all, you guys are happy with where you are? I mean, obviously these last 3 weeks have changed everything, and I don't know that we'll ever go back to what we considered normal beforehand. We were talking about this with the professors earlier today, is that our way of learning and our way of communicating is perhaps differently. Like, I'm hearing from people now who are, last night I got a text from 3 random people I haven't talked to in years, and they're like, hey, we're jumping on a Zoom. And it was like, hey, you live 4 hours away. We never Zoomed before. Why are we Zooming now? Yeah. If this had happened, I said this to my kids the other day, and it makes me feel old. If this had happened when I was in school growing up, or maybe even, and you guys to a certain extent, before the cell phone, before social media, like, school years would have been canceled. They just would have said, okay, you're not going to school, and next year you're going to start the same year over again.
Mhm.
you know, it would have been a lot different. So
For sure.
what else can we add? What other questions can we talk about powerlifting, Britt, about the competing in powerlifting, or I mean, what else have you guys been up to? And what would you tell a current Central student about not only their time there and what they can be doing there to help with their careers, but that role that Central plays for them, and that opportunity to go there?
You have to get involved in something. Like for them, it was the recorder. I was never part of the recorder, but I worked with you guys in sports, and that experience was so critical, because when I had to actually interview someone for CPTV Sports for my first on-air job, they threw me to the wolves, and at least I had something from my time at Central.
We did a segment, and if you guys haven't seen it, I'm definitely going to have to put it up on YouTube or something, but we called it 60 Seconds with a Blue Devil, and Ashley stood with different student athletes and just fired off questions at them. It was, do you prefer, chips or Doritos, or soda, or this or this or that? And one of the questions she asked one time was, she was asking what the dream job was. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was hysterical, and I'm sure we got rid of it. But she would ask people, what's your dream job? And, people would say, author, pilot, professional athlete. And one of the student athletes gave a response that was so inappropriate that I'm not even going to repeat it here. But it was a profession. It was a profession. Well, I'm not going to call anybody out. But it was a profession that you wouldn't go to college for, but two, like, you wouldn't come up with that as your dream job. And she kept this straight face the entire time and just went on to the next question. And I just couldn't believe that was the response that came out. But,
oh, you're going to have to send it to me privately after.
Yeah, we'll find it and save it. Everything's in the office, and I can't go to the office. So we're trying to make do at home with my 3 daughters and my wife, who's a nurse. Who's out there, and but my 3 kids and the home learning, and I'm trying to think when you graduated. 12, 13, and Ashley, when did you graduate? 14. So those little people that you knew when I was there are now 16, 14, and 11. And 2 of them are high school athletes, and we're sitting here waiting for the answer on softball and whether it's going to happen. I keep saying that I don't think it will, but they're still hopeful at this point in time. But well, I thank you guys. I think this is fun, and this is cool, and I think it's good for our current students and student athletes to see where our alums go to. And I was thinking about who I could talk to, and we're going to do alum student athletes, so maybe we'll get Tommy involved, and we'll see if he's interested.
He's terrible on camera.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick 3 student athletes who are totally uncomfortable talking on camera, and put them on and just see how it goes, and just ask questions, and I'll just be silent, and just we'll wait and see what happens. But what I wanted to for you guys to be able to show and talk about was your time at Central, and what it meant to you, and where you are, and to show everybody the success that you've had. And when I was thinking of 3 alums, non-student athlete alums who I had worked with over the time, you 3 came to mind right away. And I do follow all you guys on Twitter. So I like Derek's. Derek changes his name all the time right now. He's like social distancing Derek or something along those lines. And but I appreciate you guys taking the time with me. Anything else that you want to add before we end?
I just want to take a photo. I got to tweet this.
Oh boy, don't see, those are driving me nuts when people are doing that, right? Everyone's got like the picture.
I'm going to be that person.
Take the screenshot, will you? Come on.
I don't know how to do that.
We've been having like a Zoom happy hour every Friday.
Yeah.
Work, and one of the people I work with takes a screenshot and tweets it out, and then the head of our department, or the head of Hearst, Connecticut, then retweeted it, and like all of these people, and everyone just looks kind of miserable at this point.
And everything looks the same at this. There was a good one yesterday. It was the different dog mascots, college mascots that are out there, and somebody put it out there, and it got more retweets than I've ever seen of anything. If you take a dog or a baby and put them on there and tweet it out, that's gold right there. So every time I feel like I'm struggling on Twitter, I just take a picture of my dogs and put them up there. So, but again, guys, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it. And, looking forward to staying in touch and following you guys in your careers and what goes on from here. So thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you.